Call the Thursday, November 7th, regular scheduled meeting of the Asheboro City Council to order. Welcome all guests and staff. First order of business, I'd like for you to all stand and join me in a moment of silent meditation. We will be thankful that our elections are over and that some people are happy and some people are not, which is the best way I could say that. And we will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the advertised time for the public comment period. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on any items of city concern or business?
Mayor, before we move off the public comment period, I would like if the members of the audience came in the front door, you noticed the building was green, lit up green. That's in honor of Veterans Day this next Monday. And the city participates with the county. The old courthouse is lit up green too in honor of, for a week in honoring veterans. So, and you'll notice that on Sunset Avenue, there's the banners up for the Veterans Parade, which is at 4 o'clock Monday.
Okay, thank you, John. We got some new faces sitting over here. Would y'all like to stand up and tell us a little bit, introduce yourselves and tell us why you're here tonight?
So we're part of the Student Lift program. We decided to come and listen to the agenda of the meeting. We came because part of Lift is to understand and look into the leadership side of businesses in Asheboro, and we wanted to come and see what really happens in Asheboro, what people don't really see. And so we really didn't want to come.
And you said Lyft.
Student Lift program.
Well, great. That is a great program. The Chamber of Commerce sponsors and underwrites, and I think have you had Government Day?
That is
We haven't had it yet, but so far we've had the agriculture and tourism one. This is
All right. When you give the Government Day, there's a lot to know, and you will. It's an eye opener. Being here tonight is a good start. I hope you can pick up some things tonight that you may or may not know about how your local government works. Good to have y'all here.
Thank you.
Miss Terry, always a pleasure to have you up in front of us.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. I hope y'all doing good tonight. Yeah, thank you for letting me present about the good things that the city is doing. So the City of Asheboro has been awarded the 2024 Gold Higher Vets Medallion Award. A huge thank you goes to Mr. Ogburn for making us aware this program existed so we could apply for the award. So we did have to apply to be awarded, of course. The Higher Vets program is administered by the U.S. Department of Labor. and the acronym stands for Honoring Investments in Recruiting and Employing Military Veterans. This program honors employers who demonstrate exemplary efforts in recruiting, employing, and retaining veterans. While we do not have a dedicated recruitment partnership or strategy to attract veterans at this time, we recognize the valuable skills and experience that veterans bring to our workplace. So, we do encourage them to apply for open positions that fit their unique skill sets and backgrounds, because everyone's skill sets don't fit the job descriptions. Sometimes you have to think outside the box. The city was recognized during the virtual awards ceremony that was held on October 31st for its commitment to hiring and retaining U.S. military veterans. In 2023, we had an impressive record of retaining 100% of our veteran employees for at least 12 months, constituting almost 10% of our workforce. Thanks to our Public Information Officer, Elisa Chappie, the city also had a short segment on Spectrum News 1 that aired the same night as the virtual ceremony, so it was very good publicity for the city. Thank you to the council and Mayor Smith for your continued support of the HR department so that we can do what we need to do to retain our valuable employees. Any questions?
Happy 15.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And an anniversary.
Yes.
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Been with the city for
Happy
15 years.
anniversary.
Thank you.
Once again, I'm lost.
That 10% of the workforce is an impressive number.
It is,
The national average is 1%.
yeah. And it's retaining the employees that is the most important thing. You can recruit people, but to keep them these days is huge. Yeah.
What's my motto? Hire the vet, you won't lose the vet.
Yep.
Yep.
What you said. Yep. All right.
We have quite a few. We have some in this room tonight. Mr. Ogburn's a vet.
Mr. Garner.
Chuck Garner's a vet. Anybody else with the city?
Was for me.
You what?
I said, I thought the meeting was for me.
It is.
With all you do for us on our homeless population and handling that, this very easily could be a meeting for you. We appreciate the hard work that you do. He has the personality and the touch, and maybe that's the maturity he picked up in the service. So, Ms. Terry, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our director of HR is back here. Doug Kemp is back there on the back row. And we have a great HR department.
Thank you.
And that is evidenced. Many of you don't know, when we talk about retaining 10%, we have almost 400 full-time employees. So that's a significant number of veterans that we hire,
Yeah. Yeah,
and they do great work for us.
yes, they do. Very committed.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you. All right. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Where are you going?
Recruit some vets.
Okay, next we have Ms. Linda Brown, Strategic Planning and Development Officer for Randolph Community College. I don't see Dr. Ardelin in the group, in the room tonight. You tell him I was personally disappointed.
Well, I will if you insist. I'm very honored to be here. He did have an event out of town this evening, and so sent the B team, and I apologize for that. It was not quite a year ago, almost a year ago, when I was last here, and I told you that RCC ranked #1 in North Carolina out of 58 community colleges, and we were really excited to announce that to you. So now I'm here to tell you that not only did we accomplish that again for the second year in a row, but a second organization also ranked us as the #1 community college in North Carolina. So your community college head and shoulders above the rest. I also told you last year that RCC ranked 47th in the United States out of over 1,000 community colleges, and that's really impressive. And so there's a lot of initiatives that have gone on, a lot of work has been done, and I'm pleased to tell you that this year we ranked number 2 in the United States. And to give you some perspective, now again, over 1,000 community colleges, if you look at the top 10 community colleges in the country, 6 are in North Carolina. So that tells you the community college system here is outstanding, and we're proud to be ranked as high as we are. When they do these rankings, they look at return on investment, and they look at the cost to attend, they look at the student to instructor ratio, they look at completion, retention, they look at once they receive their degree or their credential, are they hired? So they look at the hiring percentage. So there's a lot of things that go into it. And we're just really pleased that we've been able to maintain the ranking in the state and to accomplish that stretch in the United States. We're also very honored that the city is going to help celebrate this with us. And in January, after the holiday decorations come down from downtown Asheboro, there'll be a banner across Sunset Avenue that shares the news that we're number 1 in North Carolina. And we're really honored by that. Also in January, recently, we were very privileged to be asked if we could help host a State of Asheboro event at the college. And so we'll be working with the mayor and the city manager on fleshing out that agenda. But it'll be Thursday, January 16th. It'll be in the morning. It'll be breakfast, and then different departments, I imagine, will be presenting and giving updates on the city. And so we're pleased to be doing that. I mentioned Sunset Avenue. I'm also excited to announce that we will have a storefront office on Sunset Avenue and a couple of classrooms. We're excited to be in the atmosphere of downtown and to help bring more people into downtown for different reasons and add to that atmosphere. So stay tuned for more information on that progress. And then finally, on behalf of Dr. Ardalan and the RCC Board of Trustees, we want to deeply thank Mayor David Smith and City Manager John Ogburn for your years of partnership and leadership. The legacy that'll remain after you've left will be treasured beyond all our lifetimes. We cannot thank you, the council, all your city employees enough. The culture of community that you've created here and for achieving excellence is rare, and we recognize that, and we want you to know it's so very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you.
I apologize if in my feeble attempt at humor that I made you sound like the B team.
No,
You're definitely not the B team.
that's my sense of humor coming back at you. But do you promise not to hold it against me if I do leave when I'm done?
I will not call you out. Been a long day, I'm sure. But we are so proud of what you and the president and the staff at RCC have accomplished to be number 1 twice, back to back, and just the great things. And I will tell the people in the room tonight that RCC has become one of our greatest economic development assets in this community.
Well, thank you.
Directly responsible for a lot of really involved training at Toyota and some of the development opportunities that we have came as a result of RCC and your willingness to be part of that.
Well, we're staying very busy, I will tell you that. And we couldn't do a lot of the things we do without the partnership we have with the city. and we sincerely hope it goes both ways. We know you send a lot of people out to the Emergency Services Training Center, for example. There's great progress on that. 2 new burn buildings are being added, and it's being expanded, so it'll be able to provide even more advanced training than what the employees are currently getting. So we're excited about all of that.
And we just had a report about hiring veterans and retaining employees. Not only do you train our police and firefighters, but you train our heavy equipment mechanics, our auto mechanics, our IT people have been to classes there.
We've got,
People that gone and tried and got their 2-year business degree that worked down the hall there in
Some of our auto body workers.
yeah.
well, we now have CDL training also, and
Yeah.
we've had 3 classes, just finished the 3rd class, and we have 100% first-time pass rate for all of them. And the nursing program, we just learned, had its 4th year in a row for 100% first-time licensure pass rate. So lots of great things. We're adding mammography to our radiography program. It just doesn't stop. Kelly can attest, there's always something going on. So thank you.
I can tell you firsthand, it's not a secret. It's well recognized at the recent Southeastern U.S. Japan conference you was asked about that I attended with Dr. Ardenlon. We were greeted by many people that knew him, and we learned that Florida is the only state in the Southeast that is remotely a peer. If they have job training, Alabama subs it out. They hire a classroom provider.
Right.
But they had outlandish incentives to get those plants. But when you have Sean Suggs, the Toyota North Carolina president, mention the successful relationship in front of a group like that with so many people from the Japanese government there, and in the education session, that there were other community colleges telling their success story of placing 10 and 50 and Dr. Ardelon speaking in hundreds, and it quickly shaped the whole conversation to his table. But it is well known, and the accolades are well deserved. So
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you again. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is Asheboro Police Chief Brown. And is Chief Summers? Okay, come on in.
Hey, you go first.
Do we need to flip a coin?
No, I'll go ahead. I believe I can go ahead.
Before you get started, let me just say that we are proud of APD and AFD and your willingness to answer the call and step up when needed.
We far appreciate that. We appreciate that. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'll just give you a short synopsis of what our involvement was when we actually went to Western North Carolina. The Asheboro Police Department sent 2 teams to Western North Carolina to assist agencies in that region. All officers volunteered and no officer was ordered to assist. Team number 1 had 9 officers, and they assisted the Asheville Police Department from October 5 to October 13th. During that time, the officers worked a total of 804.5 hours. They were assigned to work various assignments, from searching and securing houses and businesses, blocking roads, directing traffic, and escorting some different types of vehicles to different locations. Another activity they were asked to complete was they had to guard the local Best Buy. So you would think that was for the equipment that was in Best Buy. But the reason they had to guard it was because the building was being used as a temporary morgue. So they had the things they saw and the things they smelled by doing that as far as being challenging. That was certainly a challenging aspect of their job. They were housed in a local motel that had power but no running water. They were issued an actual bucket so they could scoop water out of the swimming pool, and the water was used to flush the toilets whenever they had to go to the bathroom. Showers were completed by using a gallon jug of distilled water. Lieutenant Suddeth sent the following email when they first arrived in Asheville. The damage is devastating up here. The locals and the police department officials are very appreciative of our presence. Downtown Asheville near the river looks like a bomb went off. It's hard to describe. The only way I can think to describe the atmosphere here is to compare it to September 11th. Heartbreaking, but everyone thanks us for being here, and we have been shown a huge amount of support. Our second team was 5 officers, and they went to assist the Montreat Police Department from October 13th to October 20th. During that time, the officers worked a total of 432 hours. They were assigned to patrol duties within the city of Montreat. Before leaving Asheboro, our officers decided to take one of the department's four-wheel drive Ford F-150s. That was a great decision because the officers used it daily to help deliver supplies and even transport fire and EMS personnel to calls for service in areas where cars and emergency vehicles could not go. The local police department there, they're currently short-staffed. They currently have 3 officers. When they're fully staffed, they have 5. So they were really dependent on our 5 officers that actually went there to help them with the patrol duties. But another reason they were dependent on it, the chief of police and another officer there, they had their personal homes destroyed by the storm. So they were trying to juggle their commitment of servicing citizens, but also addressing what their personal needs were at home. The town and staff and members of the community were very appreciative that officers were able to assist. On behalf of the Asheboro Police Department, I would like to thank y'all. I'd like to thank the city of Asheboro. I'd like to thank the city manager. I'd also like to thank Ms. Reeves because she has to do all the FEMA paperwork to get the city reimbursed. But without that support, we certainly wouldn't have been able to assist those communities in their actual time of need. Any questions or anything?
I understand you had staff here shuttling supplies to your officers there.
Especially the first day, the first group that went, because it was such an uncertainty what they were going to face once they got there. So we didn't really know what they would need, what equipment they would need, and what supplies they would need. So Assistant Chief Hanson and Lieutenant Howe went up there on Wednesday to take additional supplies up there for them. So we kind of had the 5 that went the next week. They were kind of a little bit more prepared about what they would actually need, but it was been a challenge. It was a challenge, and they, especially to see some of I know there's several pictures up there, but just to see some of the pictures that the officers took while they were there, it's just absolutely been amazing.
Nothing could prepare these guys for what they encountered when they got there.
Oh, no. And, you know, even far as being frank, I'll just be frank, you know, Lieutenant Suddeth said when they had to work Best Buy, if you've never smelled somebody that's been dead, it's a smell that I can't really describe to you. And he said when he got out of the car, it was just in the air. So, you know, those are things that they had to deal with also.
Thank you, sir.
You are welcome, sir.
Chief Summers, Asheboro Fire Department, Asheboro Fire and Rescue Department.
Thank you for that correction, Mayor. All right. Good evening, Mayor, council members, Mr. Osborne. As always, it's a pleasure to be before you this evening. I'd like to echo what the chief said. First and foremost, we want to thank the council for allowing us to assist our fellow citizens, our fellow Carolinians, if you will. As you know, in late September, the state of North Carolina was devastated by one of the worst storms in the history of North Carolina, specifically western North Carolina. In fact, it caused widespread destruction and fatalities across southeastern United States. Clearly, our neighbors in western North Carolina would need our assistance. Therefore, North Carolina Emergency Management sent an email to all the fire departments in the state of North Carolina. As a result, we immediately sent an email out for asking for volunteers, and the response was overwhelming, which is a testament to the compassion and commitment of Asheboro Fire and Rescue firefighters. We then established 2 teams that was deployed to Buncombe County. Team 1 deployed on Friday, September the 27th, and returned on Tuesday, October the 1st. And Team 2 deployed on Tuesday, October the 1st, and returned on Saturday, October the 5th. From my understanding, the teams responded to over 28 emergency calls and were assigned to 12 rescue missions. Obviously, this will be a long recovery, so Asheboro Fire and Rescue Department is prepared to return and assist as need. At this time, I would like to ask team leaders Captain Timothy Huzzy and Captain Karen Lovins to come forward and briefly share with the council their experiences as well as introduce their team members. They can truly paint a picture for what transpired in Western North Carolina. So I'm gonna ask those two individuals to come forward.
Good afternoon. I'm Captain Tim Huzzy. This is Captain Karen Lovins. I guess we'll go ahead and introduce our team. So I'm with Team 1. We have firefighter Hunter Chenault. Firefighter Cameron Howard. And missing is firefighter Dylan Smith.
Okay, and my engineer was Dwayne Ritter, engineer Susie Chaudhry, and Bradley Manus. He's not here. He was with my crew as well.
So we got the call to go up to Western North Carolina, specifically Buncombe County. Wasn't sure exactly where we were going to end up. It took roughly 6.5 to 7 hours to get there from here. Just trees down, flooding, had to navigate back roads. We had to have a state trooper lead us in from Old Fort, which got hit hard, up the eastbound lane of 40, and he led us to Black Mountain. And so that's where we ended up staying, was Black Mountain Fire Department. I can just say the TV and maybe what you've seen on social media doesn't do justice to what we've seen. Even the pictures I took doesn't show you everything that was going on. The roads were very hard to navigate. Half of them washed away. Half the side of the road was washed away, as you can see in one of the pictures there. So I'm gonna say big thanks to Cameron Harvey. He's a good driver. He really got us around some tight areas. So our primary, we were up there for fire suppression and rescue. We didn't have no fires, thank goodness, at that time, but there was a lot of recovery missions. A lot of checking on neighborhoods. I think we cleared half of Black Mountain in 2 days walking, reaching residents. There were trees down, couldn't get them out, so we had to call in other backhoes and stuff to get the trees out of the way. Homes washed down the river, and the smell, we had to deal with that too. So you see the friendly bear there in the pictures. There's wildlife running around. Scenes. Our first night there, we were coming back from a call. We just took that. So we were there 4 days, and we were up for probably the first 2 days straight. No power. The fire department resides in town hall. Backup generator. It was not working due to the hurricane, so there was no power, none whatsoever. No power, no water, no food, just snacks for the first couple days. Bathroom situation was pretty rough there for a little bit, but made do. Cell phone service didn't exist, and the radio communications was very limited getting out. So it got hit pretty rough in that area. Which Black Mountain is right beside Swananoa, and we did go in some of that area. Some days we went over to assist there in Swananoa. So that's about it. But it was just a rough. I've been on deployments before, and that tops it. It was a rough experience.
And we also did a lot of volunteers were coming up in truckloads. We did a lot of unloading, water, food. We landed the helicopter for Roy Cooper, and I mean, it was just, some of the stuff we saw was bad, but a lot of it was good. You know, people came together. I felt like I had worked with Black Mountain for years. I mean, they were a great bunch of firemen. And they said that we clicked with them, we fit right in and picked right up, you know, where the other department left off. They had mutual aid departments that couldn't run with them, so that was our main objective, was fire suppression if they got a fire call. And we ran some medical calls, people coming up, you know, needing assistance and stuff. But Timmy pretty much, you know, told you basically what we saw, and it's good to see people come together like they did. My crews were phenomenal. I couldn't ask for a better crew. Usually don't work with these guys. I work with Sufi, but Dwayne, it's been a couple of years since I worked with him, but we clicked like we've been working, you know, together for a long time. But it all worked out.
Yeah, we got up there and it was all business. I mean, everything was out the door. So.
Does anybody have any questions for us?
Thank you for that. I've had to go up there a few times since the hurricane, and at Old Fort, where you mentioned you were there, if you're going toward Old Fort on the left, there's a river there. And to see what's there now, there's no silt. It's right there in the parking lot right there. It's nothing but boulders and rocks. It's like you took a fire hose and washed out the river basin, and all the mud went somewhere. But it's not there, and you'd see crumpled up cars like you see there. You'd see mobile homes. There were no trees. All the trees were washed away. It was the most devastating thing I've ever seen. And I can't imagine, and that's just from the road. I can't imagine what you guys saw when you were out in the community. So thank you for going out there and helping these folks.
Thank y'all for allowing us to go.
The first two pictures on the left, the top and the bottom, that's 40. That car was crushed from this landslide, and the bottom one is the one that was on TV a lot. It's the first one we came to. They washed out the westbound lane.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service.
So, for our young members here, so you can be proud of your hometown, because when the state needed police officers and firefighters, you heard them say Asheboro is one of the first cities the North Carolina Office of Emergency Management called, and we were right up there to help.
In fact, that very next day, we were deployed.
Right.
So, and I wanted to bring the firefighters in here this evening because they are so modest, you know, and they are heroes to me. They are committed, you know, they are passionate about what they do and serving this community, but other communities as well. And that's what I take from this, because when we sent out an email from volunteers, the response was overwhelming. And right now, they are ready to go to assist others. So to say I'm proud of those individuals, those firefighters, just doesn't do it justice. So again, thank you for allowing us to assist our fellow Carolinians.
And before you step away, Chief, speaking of modest and professional firefighter, tonight is Chief Summers' last to the council. Next Friday is our last day. We didn't want a party or anybody making any fuss over it. So I told him when he asked me that, I said, well, you decide what day you leave, I decide how you leave. I'll honor his request, and appreciate you, man. You've been great. The city can be proud. Thank you, folks. It makes me proud too. And let's give Chief Summers a hand.
way now.
All right, council, you have in front of you a consent agenda, item number 7. Fairly lengthy consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that you'd like to remove for individual discussion?
Mayor, I don't want to remove this item, but I just want to recognize the retirement of Asheboro Master Police Officer Michael Folk and thank him very much for his service to the city.
Good
Well
man,
said.
good man.
Thank you.
All right, council, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Heath. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. Item 8. Chief?
Not so fast. He retired.
You're up.
One more time, chief.
You're not gonna get away that easy. Just in case you're wondering, it's Chief Willie Summers will provide an update on proposed Emergency Operations Center, Fire Station number 3.
Thank you,
You're
Mayor
welcome.
Smith. Again, it's a pleasure to be before council members. And at this time, I would like to give you an update on Fire Station 3. First and foremost, I would like to thank the City Manager, John Ogburn, the Assistant City Manager, Mr. Trevor Nuttall, and Michael Leonard and his engineering staff, and Jody Jackson with Stewart Cooper and Newell. They played a significant role in assuring the application, although there were many challenges, was submitted to the state in a timely manner. It was a challenging and tedious process, yet I'm proud to share with the council that all pertinent documentation has been submitted to the state EM, Emergency Management, who will submit the documentation to FEMA for final review. I would like to state that this is one of the largest grants to be awarded in North Carolina for a fire station / EOC, Emergency Operations Center. Just a reminder, the land, approximately 4 acres, to build an approximately 12,000 square foot fire station has been acquired on the corner of Zoo Parkway and Crestview Road. In addition, permit requests and construction plans for the roadway improvement and public water and sewer lines that will serve the fire station have been submitted to the North Carolina Department of Transportation as well as the Department of Environmental Quality. We hope to have a groundbreaking in the near future, and I'm certainly coming back. You ain't gonna get rid of me that easy for that. In addition to the update, we are requesting authorization for Stewart Cooper and Newell, the project architectural firm, to proceed with design services in accordance with the proposal received. The new station design services would include architectural, structural, civil, landscape, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design. It will follow the following phases, and I think you have these before you. Phase 1, which is the schematic design, $112,200. Now, this has already been completed. Phase 2, design and development. Phase 3, construction document. Phase 4, bidding and negotiation. And finally, Phase 5, construction administration, with a total cost of $561,000, minus the $112,200 that we've already purchased and paid for, giving us a grand total of $448,800. If you have no questions for me, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Reeves, since we're talking money now. Thank you.
I don't have any
I wasn't notified of it.
I don't think we need to.
Yeah. We do not need to do an ordinance at this time because we already did some funding, plan for the funding for this already.
Yeah, what's before the mayor and council is the authorization to execute the proposal that the Stuart Cooper Newell has submitted, that's in your packet, to progress into the design phase. So the request is for authorization of that agreement.
Please.
I'll entertain a motion to grant authorization.
Mayor, I move we grant authorization to enter the design services agreement with Stuart Cooper Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. I have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion?
Couple of questions, and I don't know that you can answer this, but I noticed their excluded services, some of that's gonna be done, but they're not providing it, but it's gonna be part of the bid package?
Correct, as it's presented, right?
I mean, the way it's presented, I mean, the geotechnical analysis and that type of stuff needs to be done. And
Correct.
but they're gonna stipulate that, I guess, when they bid it, that will have to be done.
That's how that will be handled.
And it'll be handled in the actual contract cost of the project.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor of granting this authorization, approving the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion is approved. Item 9, Mr. Evans. 9A is a legislative hearing which I will open. Case RZ 24-19 is an application to rezone property located on the east side of U.S. Business South at Oakhurst Road.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and council members, good evening. This case is involving a property that is just over an acre. There are two Randolph County parcel identification numbers that are part of the request. The request is for a general rezoning district from an R10 medium-density residential classification to an I2 general industrial classification. The applicant in this case is Mr. Rodney Tyler. The property is currently undeveloped. So the subject property, you'll see there are two different parcels, but one of those parcels is split by Oakhurst Drive. There is a sliver of property located on the north side of Oakhurst Drive, and the surrounding properties are to the east or to the right side. The purple shaded area is an I2 designated property and properties. The areas that are shaded in yellow are R10 residential. You also have the areas in red that are B2 general commercial on the opposite side of 220 Business South. And there's one high-density residential parcel that's just to the southwest on 220 Business. So going on to the next map here, you'll see the rezoning map shows you a closer view of the two subject parcels, which are labeled as parcel A1 and parcel A2. So you see that very small sliver on the north side of Oakhurst Road. That is a privately maintained road along Oakhurst, and of course 220 Business South is a state-maintained major thoroughfare. In terms of topography of the site, there's nothing really unusual to note here. And as far as utilities, there is city water, but there is not city sewer in front of the property. That is about 1,000 feet south. The property is outside of the city limits, but in the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction. So the aerial map shows you a closer view of the property and the surrounding properties. You can see a lot of the property just to the immediate north on 220 Business South and Oakhurst Road. is industrial in terms of the land uses. There are some residential uses across 220 Business South. Those properties, though, have a B2 zoning classification, so there are some non-conforming uses in the area. The oblique map shows you a little bit more of a two-dimensional view of the property and some of the surrounding properties. So this is a photo from 220 Business South. The majority of the property is on the side of Oakhurst Road where you see those signs, and then there's the small sliver just on the opposite side. So this is the view looking north on 220 Business, and then this is looking south on 220 Business. And the dwellings are Zone B2, so those are the non-conforming uses. I won't go through all this information. You do have the R10 and the I2 definitions there in your reports as well as on the screen. We already covered that. So in terms of the land development plan, the proposed land use designation on the property on the south side of Oakhurst Road, the designation is a commercial designated property. The small sliver of property to the north is designated for industrial use. And this is in the central small planning area. It is adjacent developed designated property on the growth strategy map because of being outside of the city limits. In terms of goals and policies that are supportive of the request, we believe there are 5 that are generally supported by the land development plan, only 2 that are negative. And if we look at those and in total, the plan we do believe is consistent with the land development plan, or the request is consistent with that. The property, we believe, is situated in an area that has primarily non-residential uses with quite a few industrial and commercial activities in the area. Ideally, there is a transitional land use between industrial and residential use, but because of those residential uses having a legal non-conforming status and the property being located on 220 Business South, we believe that the overall request is consistent with the land development plan. And so this does come to the council with a positive recommendation. The planning board reviewed the request. They had a positive recommendation as well. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir.
This is a public hearing. Would the applicant like to address the council?
No, just.
It's not necessary.
Not necessary? Okay, I just want to tell you guys, thank you for what you do. Being here tonight and seeing our policemen and our firefighters makes me proud to be a lifelong resident of Asheboro and Randolph County. So thank you for what you guys do. Should be mandatory that everybody come to one of these at least once a year.
So Mayor, for the record, that was Mr. Tyler. He is the applicant.
Yeah, that was Rodney Tyler, the applicant. Anyone that would like to address council regarding this request? Okay, I'll ask council, as we move to the deliberative phase, I will ask council their wishes.
Mayor, based on the consistency statement presented by staff, I move we approve the consistency statement and the request for rezoning.
I have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Ms. Heath. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. 9B, Mr. Evans. I will open a legislative hearing on case number RZ 24-20. It's an application to rezone property located at 1135 and 1147 South Cox Street, Randolph County. Should add 2 dwelling units to existing development. Go ahead, Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This request is being made by Mr. Rick Powell at 1135 and 1147 South Cox Street. The request is to apply an amended conditional RA6 zoning with multiple family dwellings to the property that is zoned RA6 conditional zoning with a small part of the property shown as R7.5 medium density residential zoning. And so there is one parcel identified as part of this request. The property is a little bit more than an acre of property, currently has 4 dwelling units. The request is to add 2 additional units. So the subject property is shown here just right in the middle of the map. It's the orange shaded area. And so if we look at some of the surrounding properties to the south, the red area is commercial. The yellow area to the east or to the right is residential, medium density residential. Along South Cox Street, you have office apartment along most of South Cox Street. Also some commercial zoning along South Fayetteville Street. And so the next rezoning map shows you a closer view of the subject parcel, which is labeled as Parcel A. There is also some frontage on Lindsay Avenue, but no access into Lindsay Avenue to the property, as we'll see on the photos as we get to that a little bit later in the presentation.
That was very controversial in 78, maybe? It was a while back.
But I think.
Yeah, the connection to the Lindsay Avenue.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sure. Tom Moose was involved.
Well, and we still, oh, yeah, he was, because he lived at the end of the street.
Yeah, anyway.
Oh.
Go right ahead, things have progressed.
Sure. No, that's okay. The property is within the center city planning area, which is it's in the tier 3 of the center city area. That's really considered the downtown area where there are some enhanced design criteria for the area. This is the southeasternmost property within that area. Just to the south, the area is outside of the center city area. In terms of topography of the site, the grade does drop as you go from South Cox Street down to Lindsay Avenue. There also are city utilities that run along South Cox Street as well as Lindsay Avenue. There's also a city sewer main that runs through the middle of the property with an easement that you see labeled on the site plan. So the aerial map shows you some of the surrounding land uses. So you really do see that transitional pattern of commercial to the south and to the west and residential to the east here from this standpoint. On the oblique map, you see the 2 structures. These are duplex-style structures with 2 units, of course, in each of those. The request is to add the 2 additional units about where that label is located. So these would be along the eastern side of the property, close to Lindsay Avenue. This shows you the property from South Cox Street. You can kind of see the grade and from that standpoint. This is another view from South Cox Street. This is looking directly into the property, so you see about where the 2 additional dwelling units would be located, just at the end of the driveway onto the right there. This is looking north on South Cox Street. This is looking south on South Cox Street. And then this is looking from Lindsay Avenue. So So there is the barricade there. There would not be access coming from Lindsay Avenue into the property, as we'll see on the site plan. And then this is looking just in the opposite direction along Lindsay Avenue, back behind where that barricade was on the last photo. So just taking a look at the site plan, just to point out a few items. So the only access into the development is along South Cox Street. There is no access coming from Lindsay Avenue. And you can see the proposed duplex there. That's in bold. You see the other two existing duplex-style dwellings that are located there currently on the site. There are 11 street trees along South Cox Street that would be added. There's also a sidewalk that would be proposed along South Cox Street. And you'll see in the conditions that that would be a requirement. That is a sidewalk that the transportation, comprehensive transportation plan and pedestrian plan recommends along South Cox Street. In terms of recreation space, there is some picnic area. There are two separate areas there on either side of the driveway toward the South Cox Street side of the property, and 5 additional parking spaces that are added for the two units, along with the parking that exists currently for the property. There is also, you'll see a tree line noted, so that is where the applicant intends to preserve as much existing vegetation as possible. We do have a condition that will address if for whatever reason any of that had to be removed for utility extension to the sewer line along Lindsay Avenue or within the property, that there would have to be a screen replacing any areas that are shown where the trees are being removed. So move on to the building elevation. This is a 1-story structure proposed. So I won't go through all this. I think we covered much of this. I will point out South Cox Street is a major thoroughfare that is state maintained. The overall density is just over 5 dwellings per acre. At this location, we do believe that is consistent with many of the other properties in the area. So the only deviation from the typical zoning ordinance requirements, and you'll see this labeled on the site plan, typically there is a 25-foot front setback. Lindsay Avenue is technically considered a front setback. We believe it's pretty unique just because of not having access and not really functioning like a front setback typically would. We believe it's more consistent with what a rear setback is in practicality. So the applicants are showing a setback of 15.7 feet at the closest point where the structure meets, where the structure is located from that side on the eastern side of the property. So that is the primary deviation. Also, I will point out that, and you'll see this on the conditions as well, there would be no RV parking allowed. That is on the plan, and that it will be on the conditions. I covered the vegetation on the property, that the plan is to use the existing vegetation. There would be a screen C that would be required if any of that had to be removed, and that consists of evergreen trees that are no more than 20 feet apart, plus another row of either evergreen shrubs that are planted every 5 feet apart, that would grow to a hedge of at least 6 feet in height, or in lieu of the row of shrubs, the applicant could construct a solid wooden or vinyl fence that's at least 6 feet in height. The exception to that is where the city sewer easement is, because we wouldn't want a fence over the sewer easement, but otherwise that screen would have to be in place if the vegetation were to be removed where it's shown on the site plan. The land development plan, this is in the city center, city activity center, as well as the center city area that I mentioned. It is in the primary growth area, and we believe there are 5 goals and policies that support the request. Only one that's negative toward the request is just the slope on the property that you saw from South Cox Street particularly. The conditions are there up on the screen. They're in your report. So just the 3 that I'll point out, which I covered the prohibition of RV parking. The sidewalk would be a required sidewalk. Now, there are some areas where there is some terrain to deal with. So condition H gives the applicant the ability to move that sidewalk where the topography creates an issue, or in some cases there isn't adequate right-of-way. So as long as it is parallel to South Cox Street, where it could be tied into a sidewalk on an adjacent property, if that develops, then that's what condition H is intended to do, to make sure that sidewalk is in place. And then item J just codifies the screening that would be required if any of the existing vegetation were to be maintained. Those 2 parcel identification numbers are the 2 single-family dwellings that are closest to the property along Lindsay Avenue. And so those are the conditions I wanted to point out. Many of the others are standard conditions that we have with many requests. We can go over any of those if the council would like, but they're very typically fairly standard. Overall, staff's consistency statement is that we believe, just because of the area being considered a transitional area from commercial to more medium density and lower density residential, that the proposal is appropriate. The property is part of the city activity center. That focuses on having a mix of appropriate uses. It focuses on having sidewalks, having street trees, having recreation space, and we believe the plan incorporates many of those elements. And also, the request provides some additional housing opportunities in an area that has quite a few different service and employment options. So staff does come to the council with a positive recommendation. The planning board reviewed this originally during its October meeting. They did have some questions on the location of the recreation space, asking if that could be relocated a little bit further back from South Cox Street, and about the building location. They had just a question about that. As far as its proximity to Lindsay Avenue. Ultimately, the plan came back to council on this Monday in a fairly similar manner to how it was shown at the October planning board. The planning board did recommend approval of the request, believing also that there were more positive attributes than negative with the request. So I'll be glad to take any questions if council has them.
Can we talk a little bit more about the tree line?
Sure.
Just when I went out to look at this and I went around to Lindsay Avenue, and if any of those trees need to come down, I mean, that's gonna really change things for
Right.
people that live on. So what's the likelihood that that's gonna be able to be maintained? I know you touched on it a little bit, but can you just talk through that again?
Right. So there are some trees that, the ones that are closest to the driveway, there may have to be some removed there. But on the side closer to, let me get back to Lindsay Avenue here. On the side closer to Lindsay Avenue, those are shown as remaining. And so, the condition would also require evergreen trees that are no more than 20 feet apart, and the double row of evergreen shrubs every 5 feet apart, or the fence, if any of those beyond what's shown on the plan are removed.
I mean, 6 feet's a lot different than what's shown here.
Absolutely.
And evergreen planting, it'll take a while to get to
Sure,
some kind of height. But I'm
sure.
reasonably sure that those on this side of the property are not going to be removed during construction. Right along the Lindsay Avenue Park. Right there,
Right.
as opposed to the South Cox Street. Are those one and the same tree? I guess is my question. If you go back to South Cox. Right, right there, right, like, between proposed and additional, is that the same tree?
Okay. I wonder if the applicant would be able to answer that. Sure.
And we're not approving, should we approve this, the site plan, that is to be reviewed by staff at a later date.
For the zoning permit,
Yeah.
yes, sir, but the plan does go with the conditional zoning request.
I mean, just because if we can go back to I, it seems a little bit
Okay, sure.
nebulous, at least from my perspective. Our action is clarification, locations, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, yes, sir, there are some additional, just clarifications that we typically would see through the zoning permitting process.
Would that be done through staff?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Good job.
Thank you.
I would like to speak to the council regarding this request.
Good evening, council. Christian Vestal with Summey Engineering Associates. We've worked on the site plan and also representing the applicant, who's represented here by Mr. Brian Powell. So if there's any specifics for the applicant as well tonight, but I think firstly, let's address the landscape issues. The evergreen tree there you see to the right side of Lindsay Avenue, based on the proposed site plan location of the building, that's actually north of that sewer easement. It would remain, the building is completely south of the sewer easement. As far as where that clearing is, that's about in line where the building would be there and even further south as far as the plan or left on the page that we were just looking at. The proposed condition placed upon this is that a minimum type A screen would be provided. If that's not left intact and in place, anywhere where it is disturbed, the type C, I believe it's type C, would be proposed, which we don't necessarily see that needed because if you look there at the southern side of the site plan, the property kind of juts out a bit. And there's a great bit of buffer that's going to be remaining between the proposed structure and the existing house on Lindsay.
Okay.
If there's any other site-specific questions, I may be able to address those.
No, that answered, I just,
Other questions of Mr. Vestal?
The rest of the parking, that parking's not gonna get in and off that much of that tree line either. I mean, that's north of the driveway. You know, I know where the house, I mean.
Right, but there's over 25 foot of buffer there to remain between the parking and Lindsay.
Okay.
And we tried to orient it in a way that impacted the neighbors the least amount as possible here.
And all the other conditions are acceptable
To the applicant, yes.
to the applicant?
Questions?
Thank you, guys.
Any more? Sir. Anyone else that would like to speak to council regarding this request? Pro or con? Hearing none, we'll move to deliberative phase, and I'll ask council their thoughts.
Mayor, based on the consistency statement provided by staff, I move we approve the consistency statement along with the conditional rezoning subject to the conditions proposed and acceptable to the applicant.
We have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Swears? Discussion?
Can I just ask, did you
have some input from the people on Lindsay at all?
Yes, sir. I did receive a few phone calls from those who were on Lindsay Avenue. The primary question that I had was whether or not there would be access from Lindsay Avenue. And of course, there isn't. If that were ever proposed, which is unlikely, that would have to come back through the city council.
Probably the War of the Roses all over it. Even though our policy calls for it.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, and John, your last case is, I will open a legislative hearing on case RZ 24-21. It's an application to rezone property located on the west side of WOW Road, approximately 200 feet north of Old Castle Drive. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the applicant in this case is Mr. Christian Vestal, and the request is for a general R15 low-density, single-family district, so no specific conditions or site plan are being considered with this request. The property consists of one parcel identification number that is just less than 3/4 of an acre of undeveloped property. The subject property is at the kind of the northeasternmost extreme of Asheboro's jurisdiction on WOW Road, just to the north of Old Liberty Road. And the area that is highlighted in yellow, including the subject property, was the Heathwood Acres. That is the Heathwood Acres subdivision. The subject property was never platted as a lot within Heathwood Acres. The intention was to recombine the property with the property that is located just to the north, that is outside of the city's jurisdiction, where there was a youth camp on the property. It's now a non-commercial place of assembly with a church. So this was never platted as a lot. And so it was part of the conditional zoning request with the Heathwood Acres subdivision. There also was a prohibition on having a driveway access to the property because it was not intended to be a standalone lot at that time. And the recombination never took place. So the rezoning map shows you the subject property, which is parcel A, also the surrounding properties. Parcel D is a lift station that's owned by the city of Asheboro. They're on the corner of WOW Road and Old Castle Drive. So in terms of topography, the property is a little bit more level than even some of the surrounding developed properties on Old Castle Drive. And there is to the south on Old Castle a city force main, and there is also city water that runs along Old Castle Drive. So it doesn't run directly in front of the property. We have discussed the ability to connect to those services with the engineering department. They do believe that it's doable. They have looked at that. And so if we look at the aerial map, you'll see the subject property and some of the surrounding property with the Heathwood Acres development just to the south. And then typically lower density residential that surrounds the rest of the area. The oblique map shows you a little bit of a different view of the property. So you see with the lake, that was the former Woodman camp. This is looking at the property from WOW Road, just directly into the property. Old Castle Drive and the city pump station is there, kind of where that cleared area is with the road going to the right. This is looking north on WOW Road. So the subject parcel is on the left-hand side of the road here. This is looking south on WOW Road. Old Castle Drive again is off to the right. The subject property would be off to the right, back kind of behind where the photo was taken. This just shows you the surrounding area on Old Castle Drive, so you do see single-family, lower-density residential here in this area. So this was annexed in 1999, so the property being part of the conditional zoning district with that prohibition on having a driveway to WOW Road, the intention with that condition was not to have just multiple driveways for the entire development, but this property was not really intended to be part of the development. So that condition does preclude platting the subject property as a lot and developing it as a single-family dwelling because of that condition. I will say that the lot also would meet R15 standards in terms of the lot size and the frontage along WOW Road. I kind of covered the utilities. And of course, this is a general district request. The land development plan recommendation for the property is suburban residential. This is in the primary growth area as well. And so the staff believes there are 5 goals and policies that are supportive of the request. Only one that was negative toward the request in terms of the slopes, which is really characteristic of most of the property in this area. And so overall, staff's consistency statement with the request is that we do believe that the R15 zoning that is requested is consistent with the land development plan, designating the property for suburban residential use. We also believe it's consistent with the surrounding neighborhood, and also removing the conditional zoning and placing this into a general district will allow reasonable use of the property consistent with the adjoining land uses. I will also point out that just because of the size and the shape of the property, it would only allow for one single-family dwelling. Considering these factors, staff does believe that the request is reasonable and in the public interest. Also, the planning board reviewed this request. They concurred with staff's reasoning. So I will be happy to answer questions.
Questions? Obviously, you did a good job.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone in the room that would like to address council on this request?
I want to thank John again. Very good job presenting all the cases tonight. If there's any specific questions on this one, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Questions? Okay. Thanks, sir. Council, what are your wishes?
Mayor, based on John's presentation, the consistency statement, and the parameters set forth in this rezoning request, I move that we approve the consistency statement and the rezoning request as presented.
I have a motion by Ms. Heath. And do I have a second?
Second.
Where's that second? Joey?
Could have been, it was me.
It was Eddie. But I'll second it. I'll second it if you want me to.
Okay.
Whichever one you want. I'll second.
We'll say Joe, we'll say Eddie, I'm sorry. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Mayor, before we move away from the community development public hearings, I'd like to publicly acknowledge
Thanks for being here.
See you guys.
Thank you for being here.
What school do you go to?
I go to Archer
Everybody, does everybody?
Good.
Great to have you all here.
Glad to have y'all here.
We appreciate you being here.
Come back.
You'll need the time to calm down.
Mayor, before we move on from those items, I would like to bring special note that along with the promotion Mr. Nuttall to Assistant City Manager, I was, based on Mr. Nuttall and Mr. Kemp's recommendations, it was my distinct honor to promote John Evans to Community Development Director. So we're proud of you, John, and look forward to, not much longer, but we'll enjoy working for you for 3-4 more months as the Community Development Director.
I appreciate that. Appreciate everything from everyone, all the support.
25. John, you've been with the city how long?
I started full-time in '99, but I was an intern in late '95 for a few
Yeah.
years.
I still think of you as the new guy.
Yeah, 25.
Okay. Mr. Garner, are you backed up by the police out here? Yeah, we got
Captain Jones.
Captain Jones.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I think it's important to provide this update periodically. Well, to all of you guys and to the public. I wouldn't want the public to ever think for a minute that we have slowed down or stopped these efforts. And I can say personally that every day that I work, at some point throughout the day, I'm involved in this particular situation. Some days more than others, but it is every single day. When we first talked about this, how long ago? It's been, it wasn't a year, but it's getting close. We had 18 identified camps that were spots of interest. Now, today, as of today, we have retired over 30 camps. That's not to say that we were missing the other camps when we first started this. It's just that as people scatter, you have new camps and
Whack-a-mole.
so on and so forth. You know how the story goes. And that's just the encampments. There's also been structures demolished. I did the paperwork today on another one that will be removed. That's part of this effort to do this. The numbers are crude, but based on my personal numbers, and I'm pretty aware of what's happening, along with numbers I get from DSS, and I'm not going to just get into numbers other than to say they're crude, but we have fewer people now than we did when we began this endeavor.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not. No, we do have fewer.
Well, they're all out on Sunset and Fayetteville at 6:30 in the morning.
That's where they're at, right, yeah. But now I can.
Corral.
Yeah, that too, yeah, that too. And I'm not going to get into war stories because I could go on all night, but I will say that one of the cleanups that, where there were maybe 10 people or so, produced 12 tons of garbage, and that's huge. I sent you the picture of that, and that's not unusual. That's why it's so important, one of the reasons why it's so important to continue this on. Last week, I had Angie Polito, our community navigator, back out with me again. Actually, finally had 2 people sign up for services. Now, 2 is, that's it so far in this endeavor. So, but it's still going on, and as it is right now, as we've mentioned, the city's got 400 employees, and so we have 400 people that somebody is on practically every street in the city every day of the week, and I wait for them to call me now, and they do. And between the staff and the citizens that are on board with, they know how to get in touch with me, which pretty much everybody does. And I know that's where I get all my information from that way, and it comes quick. So it saves a lot of beating the bushes when we're already there and we see what's happening. The guys call me, citizens call, and I go. And I can't say thanks enough to these guys for a partnership that we have in this. It works very well. So, and as a veteran, thank you guys for the recognition that the city has always given to veterans and continuing to hire veterans. So Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
What'd you find out there on the clover leaf the other day? The interstate.
No, it was actually removed by the other day, that day, yeah. So, but yeah, that was,
Did DOT ever get those houses?
those houses are gone, and the one that I actually did paperwork on is the one I talked to you about the other day.
Right.
It's related to that, but it was outside of any interest that they had, so.
And we're gonna remove that.
And we're gonna take care of that one, so. And that's the thing, there's pockets. There'll be a pocket. That was a pretty bad pocket for a while with, Mr. Betts came in and spoke to you guys a few months back about that. And I have called him regularly since then, and we talked prior. And I let him know about that one, that we're moving forward. And so, of course, his situation has changed a lot. It's gotten a lot better, And hopefully there won't be a next time, but if there is, here we come.
I know you're finding, people that are breaking into empty buildings and setting up camps in these buildings, so.
Right, yeah.
Great.
Right.
Good job, Chuck.
Thank you.
Captain?
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on that, I know that our Special Operations CRT team, they work well together with Chuck, and it truly takes all of us. He gave a pretty good overview of the efforts, and I don't really have a whole lot to add to that other than we do see camps. They get displaced here, and they pop back up in another location. Speaking of break-ins, we have had some recent break-ins that the business owner or tenant there, feels like it's a camp set up close by. Nothing that we could prove on one of those. We did solve one of those break-ins, and it was not related to the homeless camp nearby. But there is some speculation on a couple we've had recently with that. No new real developments. And just to update, I don't think you mentioned the property at the YMCA. I think there's a recent camp we've discovered there. Working with the property owner there, he's going to come pretty much clear cut that whole area out between the Y and the shops on 42, because you all know that's been a repetitive place where we've had camps pop up.
I think some of us have had complaints from people, members of the Y that are intimidated going in and out of the Y because of the people hanging around at the front door waiting to slide in there and take a shower.
Correct. I'm a member there. Early morning hours, they've called me, hey, can you help us with this, something like that, because it is, and we make the recommendation for them to maybe kind of narrow down their window to if they're going to provide that assistance, to make it a more coordinated effort.
I will say, I saw one of your officers the other day on North Fayetteville Street. I had come by and there was a guy sound asleep in the grass at one of the churches, laying on the bank, just sound asleep, and had his bicycle and his pack and everything out there. And I came back by and one of your officers had rousted him and he was pedaling up the street.
Rousted him all the way up to Randall.
I saw him earlier on the street in the same area, beside Public Works.
Yeah.
And might have been you going to get him. It was somebody walking up to him right then, and he was getting up quickly.
Well, thank you so much. It is not a problem that is unique to Asheboro.
Correct.
It is a nationwide problem right now, and I'm glad we've got a handle on it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will, again, sing Chuck's praises as everyone does. I sent Chuck a text one evening, I think a weekend evening, if I'm not mistaken, and, cause one of my children had made a comment to me about it, and, rode by there the next morning at 9 o'clock, and Chuck was out there talking to the people, and they were gone the next day. So, he does an excellent job,
I hate to be negative, but I seem like I see more people on the street, and it seems like more young women now. I don't know, maybe I'm just seeing things, but
No, I don't think you're seeing things.
I see a lot.
They're out there.
Can I say something to that?
Yeah,
You know, they're going through town at 5:36.
more on the street, you may actually have a point there as far as that, but part of the reason behind that is no solid place to land right now. And it's because when you and I talked, and I went to that spot off Albemarle Road, that day, they had to move. And that's what's causing that. And just like the situation there, there's no real reason why they have a week to get out. If you're breaking the law, you're trespassing, it's a problem. You need to go right now.
Go right now.
And that's why, and I see that too. Even though I'll stand and say that the numbers are fewer right now, but there is more movement on the street, and it's because there's nowhere to rest.
I don't know where they're staying at night, but I can tell you at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, they are everywhere down there.
Yeah, you're right.
But I do appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Okay, John, number 11.
Mayor, I just want to bring to the public's attention that we will be hosting a public open house and workshop for the downtown parking study, which will be held on November 20th at the Harry and Jeanette Adult Research Center, commonly known as the Senior Adult Center, right across the street. We encourage the downtown visitors, patrons, owners to come and see what we're talking about and what's going on. You'll also notice that there's, if you want to join a discussion group, there is a pre-registration required for business residents, interested parties, property owners, downtown nonprofits, and downtown residents. So this is on our social media. We do encourage you to, and if the council wants to attend, please do so. And we'll have the staff there too.
If I could, Mr. Ogburn, I'll add that there will be also opportunities for council input and internal staff input following these opportunities for public engagement. So we're not overlooking the need to get input from our internal folks as well as you all for input on this issue. So we just want to bring forward this public opportunity that's about 2 weeks away. And this, as John said, this will be out on social media. We'll be making sure that people are aware of this opportunity. And like you said, there's two real ways to participate. One is through these focus conversations with the consulting team. You do need to pre-register for that. If you can't make that or get signed up to meet with the consultant, more than welcome to come to that open house. It's a floating 4 to 7 p.m. time. You can come at any point and get information, give input, and the consultant is planning to give probably 2 brief presentations during that 3-hour period, just to bring people up to speed in that manner. But otherwise, it'll be just a floating time period. So appreciate you all helping us get the word out. And like you said, this will start appearing on all our platforms tomorrow.
Thanks, sir.
The discussion groups will also be, I understand that
Yes, sir.
require registration.
Yes, sir.
If anybody should ask us,
Yes.
that'll be at the same location.
And I do want to thank Senior Adults, Mark Hensley, for making this available to us and working with us to have this opportunity at that location.
We're going over there because there's parking. All right. Mr. Leonard, city engineer. 12A, you're gonna give us an update on on-street parking plan for Loach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. You have in your packets, actually, and on the screen, a drawing for Loach Street. This was discussed at the September meeting and the October meeting. The plan shows the addition of 4 additional parking spaces along the east side of Loach. And As we discussed at the last, or as Spencer discussed at the last meeting, the street is very narrow, but does meet the minimum requirements, being that there's limited sight distance toward the intersection, and with vehicles parked along the street, because of this narrowness of the street, staff recommends no more than 4 spaces. And 1 hour parking from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., otherwise prohibited. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, looking for direction at this time.
Assuming this is approved, how quickly can kind of everything be in place for this to happen?
We can get JT on the signs probably in a couple of weeks.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, sir. Item 12B.
Mr. Mayor, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, there's an ordinance for that.
Oh. So you need a motion.
Yes, sir. And it is in the packet, so.
All right, sorry. I'll entertain a motion to approve by reference.
Mayor, I move we approve the ordinance to amend on-street parking on Lake Street by reference.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Where was it? Joey? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, 12B. We have 3 signalized intersections, and we've been studying those. They are older light systems and.
Yes, sir. So on your screen, you can see this is the intersections of Worth and North Main, Worth and North Elm, and Brewer and North Elm. And these are the only 3 that are maintained by the city. They have reached the end of their life cycle, and it's getting more costly to repair. We've got a estimate to replace the lights with new up-to-date lights of $230,000. However, after discussing a little bit with emergency services and public works staff, and looking at the crash data for the intersections, I believe Spencer Patton has put a memo together for you guys, and it's in your packet. And we're looking at converting all 3 intersections to the 4-way stop and reducing the annual maintenance cost at the intersections and omitting the expense of the new equipment. At this time, we're looking at just direction as to whether you'd like to proceed.
I think it's a fabulous idea.
If you'll note.
No, I just said, I think it's a fabulous idea. I drive up and down there all the time, and I mean, yes. This makes a lot of sense.
Old and slow.
Yes, this makes a ton of
So
sense.
I think 2 of the actual incidents that happened were because the lights were out. So.
Crash data.
Crash data, yeah.
Well, it probably affects Clark more than anybody here. I'm curious how he feels about it.
Well, Clark and John, so it's either gonna increase my commute time or decrease it, one or the other.
One of them, but it will be reliable.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I think, particularly, the Brewer Street intersection and the Main Street, for sure. The only one that would even give me any concern at all would be the Elm and Worth Street, but I think it's plenty of sight distance there.
You gotta time that slow roll coming from the Hager house, try to catch that green.
4-way stop.
4-way stop, yes, sir.
Paint and signs.
Paint and signs, and the intention is to leave a flashing light, leave the lights in place for a couple months as flashing until everyone gets used to the 4-way stop as well.
My only question is North Elm has a lot of traffic on it, and Brewer Street, it doesn't have a lot through traffic on Brewer Street, but it's a hill there, and you can see you got shrubbery. To me, that's the one intersection I have a question about. I don't know, but.
I think you might possibly depending on how it progresses, under the assumption we go this route. Worth may, need some sort of advance warning, whether it be, the quietest thing is to put some thermoplastic strips to wake up strips to keep.
We can certainly look into that.
That's a possibility. I mean, that's a whole nother snow removal situation, but coming down that hill, just sort of prepare.
Rumble strips, that's what I call them.
Yeah, well, if you use it's a narrower, it's just like the stop bar, except it's narrower and it's not near as bumpy. I mean, it'll very gently sort of feel you, that's all.
It'll wake you up.
And you might even add,
It'll wake you up.
Yeah, it'll get your attention a little bit, you know.
Okay.
All right, Mayor, we'll come back with council's comments and work on that, work with the city attorney and draft an ordinance.
Certainly don't think it's worth a couple $100,000.
Buy a lot of paint and signs for a couple $100,000. Thank you, Michael. Michael Roney.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are continuing to make progress on the water line to the Speed Development Project and come to you tonight with some more information and another request for funding. As you remember, we were doing this project as a...
Surprise.
You're about $500 million.
As a design-build project, and remember, there are two phases to design-build. One is to get us through pre-construction and 75% drawings. That's administrative work, and 75% drawings get us to the point where we can go for permitting for DEQ, land quality, 401, 404, all those permits we have to go through. So we're still working in phase 1 to do some services. We've moved on to phase 2 and some areas too, because we divided the project into 4 sections. Just going back in history, we approved the contract with Garney Design Build Team earlier this year. The January meeting executed it in February for $5 million, $5,034,601, and then came back to you at the September meeting, and we began work in phase 2. In that first GMP, guaranteed maximum price is GMP. And you approved the first GMP for early material procurement for section 4 of the project, which goes from Eastern Randolph High School to the camps, to the full speed site, the county line. And that was for $11,109.79. So those have been approved. Coming you tonight to start talking about or get approval for GMP number 2. And it will be the second amendment to the contract. What that GMP number 2 includes is the early material procurement for sections 2 and 3. And section 3 would, coming backwards, is from Eastern Randolph High School through Ramseur to downtown Ramseur at the river crossing, where we're crossing behind the mill in Ramseur. And that is section 3. Section 2 starts there at the river crossing and comes all the way out Jones Street to Highway 64 at the Western Wear place. So that is sections 2 and 3, and we are ready. They've got the 30% design drawings done, so we can go ahead and start ordering material because we know we've got the horizontal design done. We know what materials we need. So we need to go ahead and get that procured so we can get that. I talked to the pipe person this week, and he said he's probably going to be able to get that in January or February if we order it this week or soon. The material for the first request is being delivered the first week of December. So they're going to be prepared. If we get the permitting done, there's been some hiccups with permitting, but if we get the permitting done, they'll start laying pipe at the end of December in section 4. So tonight I'm coming to ask for the early procurement for sections 2 and 3. That's the pipe and fittings. And also to ask for approval for construction of section 4. That is that line we've already procured the material for. And that is part of the phase 2 project, of the project. Those numbers for the material procurement is $6,916,601.52. The construction for that phase is $12,992,707.50. Now, the GMP2 total looks funny. We have to subtract out the $4 million of material we've already bought because that's in one of the line items in that construction cost. So we back that out, and it comes up to a GMP2 total of $15,898,199.23. So that's actually the GMP we're requesting. But then to total up what we're doing in phase 2 so far with what you approved at the September meeting, total phase 2 so far with approval tonight would be $19,909,309.02, bringing the total project cost with phase 1 and phase 2 to $24,943,910.92. So lots of numbers, but best news is we're still under budget.
And Mayor, members of the council, I know the folks in the audience know this. Welcome, Mr. Joey Johnson, Assistant County Manager and Manager of the County Utilities Program. We're glad to have you here with us tonight, too. For our folks watching on streaming tonight or tomorrow, remind everybody, Michael, we have a $55 million.
We were allocated in the state budget of 2023.
So this is
$55 million to do this project. So this is pass-through money funding this project from the state, from the legislature. So
when we had our last meeting, we talked about water and sewer capital improvements projects. This is not that 24 million, the total contract is 24.9 million. That's not in that, what we talked about, so.
Correct.
For people that don't do this all the time, that may be really confusing. This is its own individual project.
Correct. Question?
Did
Yes.
have a question.
Okay.
This sheet, in the handout says the
Yes.
total was
That's-
6.16 million versus 6.91.
That is taking out the contingency. Mhm. I had that question too, but I got that straight. So that is contingency. Okay.
So that was the actual.
Mhm.
Then there's 800,000 plus or minus contingency for
Correct.
whatever. we
Okay.
find.
Has there been any more meetings with the county in relation to the meeting we had with the county about the issues such as who's going to actually own this line, who's going to maintain?
We're still working through that. Yes, with the staff, at staff level, we're meeting all the time, hoping to get prepared to present it to the boards in an agreement between the two entities, or whoever winds up taking maintenance and ownership of the line. So we are working towards that.
Are we going to have another joint meeting to talk about that, John? Do you
I think
know,
so, when we get that, we'll have a joint meeting when we get the staffs get it hammered out.
Okay.
So everybody can be briefed on it before they're asked to, approve it.
Got
Just
it.
behind me.
I will say the county has a consultant working on their end. We have a consultant helping us with our end, and we're kind of going to come together and form
Yeah,
an
that's what I
agreement.
thought was going to happen, was the
Right.
consultants
So
are
we
doing
can-
their thing, then
right.
everybody's going to
Then
come
we'll all-
together, then we'll
all
come
rally
together
back
again,
together,
then.
right.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we're since building the line. We're getting the state money and building the line.
Yes.
So while it's been built, it belongs to the city of Asheboro, right?
We have ownership until, yes. And we are responsible by agreeing to these terms, we are responsible for this project.
And now, will there be inspectors hired to make sure they're putting the line in right and all that stuff?
Part of these costs include some inspections from the design build team, and we will have our inspectors on site too. Yes.
There was some discussion about upsizing the line in Ramsewer.
The county wants to upsize the line from Ramsewer to the Eastern Randolph from 20 to 24, and that cost is actually in here, and they've agreed to reimburse us for that cost.
Is that in section 3?
That is section 3. That's correct.
Right.
Yes. Any other questions? Well, I'm here tonight to ask you to allow Mr. Auburn to authorize Mr. Auburn to sign GMP number 2, which is the second amendment to the contract with the design build team with Garney.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move we approve the authorization to allow the city manager to execute the
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second is Heath. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if you've not been that far east in the last little bit, it's worth the 25-mile round trip just to go see the Wolf Speed facility. You'll be stunned how big it is. It will be, right. When it's
Like Toyota, it's tall too.
Yeah, it will be upon completion, it'll be the largest computer chip manufacturing facility in the world.
How many square feet are there in that complex?
I don't know.
When we first started down this path.
written in that state bill
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
huge.
huge, I know that.
So I don't know how many square feet is in the building.
Right. Anyway, it's amazing, so.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Reeves, I'm gonna ask you to try to speak up a little bit. I haven't heard a word you said all night. I just asked these guys to vote.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you is an ordinance to amend the general fund. This ordinance relates to the project of replacing the HVAC system at the Asheboro Public Library. This has been a project that has been underway for a couple of years now. We have bid it a few different times. We've changed scopes a few different times. This project is got a $200,000 grant from OSBM from the state, and then the rest of the funding comes from the city of Asheboro. Due to the different iterations of the bidding and the timing and the delays moving into the winter months, Mr. Cagle has, and the library, Mr. Holt, have determined that we need to have heaters in the building as we're switching out the HVAC because we're entering into the winter months. They want to keep the library open while we are making this change. And we have learned, or I have learned, other people probably knew this, but you have to keep books at a certain temperature to keep them safe. So Mr. Cagle is recommending a process of purchasing some heat pumps and renting some heaters with fuel oil, and the estimates in this budget amendment relate to those. The purchase of the heat pumps is in the Facilities Maintenance Department because Mr. Cagle believes that he will be able to utilize those in other areas of city business over time. But the estimated cost for the two large heaters and the estimated fuel cost is being charged to the library project because it actually is library and has no purpose outside of that. We are moving money from the Facilities Maintenance Department budget to the library budget to cover this, so we are not asking for any authorization for using a fund balance towards this. We're just moving money around internally to try to cover this. I recommend adoption by reference if there are no questions. Is that loud enough?
I did hear that. Thank you. Heard every bit of that. Thank you. Questions?
So they go put the new heat pumps and somehow run into the existing ductwork and everything else there, or is that?
That's
the
right.
plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Was the original intent to have it closed while they were doing this, and now that's changed?
It was never communicated to me that we were keeping the library open during that time. I do not know if it was an oversight or if it was a change in the conversation between the library and our facilities team. But this project was never intended to be done at this late of a date in the season where the temperatures would be fluctuating out of a realm of what would be appropriate or manageable.
And
it just kept getting
might
pushed back
also-
and back.
Might also necessitate moving the books out. the books are humidity sensitive and not just heat, but humidity. And if you're gonna close that thing down and not put any kind of heat in there, you got a problem.
It was not considered when we bid the project out with a contractor. I don't know where the disconnect was.
And who did we have do the design?
I would have to refer to
What'd he
Mr.
say?
Cagle for that. I don't recall.
Yeah. Who did the plans on them? I'm sure you had it.
Absolute Engineering, I
Okay.
probably, I think it was Gary Smith, maybe.
I just would seem to me that, I mean, we're gonna do this, I mean, I know, but it seemed to me that that was, whether it's the summer, whether it's the winter, there should have been a provision in the work, or an alternate add if I have to heat and cool or maintain a certain climate or humidity level in there. Cause that's a pretty much an industry standard kind of thing, you know?
Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, I mean, you know, we gotta do it, I mean, I know that, but, I just,
You can't maintain them in good order without air in the summer and
you would
heat
have thought
in
the
the winter.
temporary would have been built into that budget, I mean, but that's okay, I mean.
Should have been in the budget.
And just for the council remembers, we put the best technology we could in a 96, 95, 96. So the air conditioning runs and the heat runs all the time. Try to keep the air dry and cool.
I went to a school like that.
So this is, when we complete it, we'll have the newest technology here 30 years later, and it'll be much more energy efficient and will properly maintain the books and the materials in there.
All right, so, any other questions about the amendment? Anybody got a motion?
Mayor, I move we approve the ordinance to amend the general fund by reference.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Okay. Mr. Nuttall, vacancies on the planning board.
Thank you, Mayor. Real briefly, at your direction, the planning board has received and reviewed the 4 applicants for the city planning board seat that will open in January of next year. In order to give all applicants an opportunity to speak about their interest in the position, the board is inviting the applicants to its December meeting. We do expect that board will forward its recommendation to city council in time for you to make an appointment at your December meeting and fill that opening seat. I also wanted to let you know that we did receive an application for the extraterritorial jurisdiction seat as well. That will be open in January. That's an application from Mr. Jacob Wilburn. Jacob resides within the city's ETJ area, and staff will be sending his application to the Board of County Commissioners clerk because under state law, the county board makes the appointment of an extraterritorial member to the city planning board. So we didn't want to give you that update. We should be in position to get that board fully seated in time for January.
Question?
Good update.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right. I believe you all have in front of you a 2025 regular meeting schedule. And those are the dates, the normal dates, the dates that we would normally have a meeting if we were not to change any of them for any reason.
That is correct.
All right. Now, is there any reason to think that any of these need to be changed? And the September Labor Day meeting is Thursday the 4th, and we have traditionally changed that to be the next week, but I'm not sure that's absolutely necessary. How does anybody feel about that? Labor Day is the 1st, Thursday being the 4th. Is anybody gonna be out of town that week? I know I'm not.
5 years ago, that all changed for me. So. She's at the house right now, and she was born September the 5th.
Congratulations.
So you good?
Well, I'd rather meet on September the 4th than September 11th.
Yeah, all right.
I had two now,
Something
'cause I
wrong
could
in-
be gone that week.
All right, so, in addition to these dates, is there any feeling toward moving these meetings to 6 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock?
I like that idea.
I think that's a great idea.
As late as our meetings have been running and not anticipate any change down the road, I think going to 6 makes sense.
A year and a half ago, they weren't that long.
There was a time prior to an economic crash, the meetings were getting so long. I mean, we were into because of land use cases, 12 o'clock range, and we were even contemplating, as so many cities do, have two meetings a month. And, which while I'd rather get it done in one night, you know, having a land use meeting and a general meeting, splitting those up, but
We were
I think
also
6
doing every
o'clock would-
case as a special use.
In those days, we would be, it'd be 10:30 and we had just done the zoning cases, land use cases.
Yeah.
We haven't done any business yet.
So, but, having said that, I think, 6 o'clock is our first step in a good defense towards managing that.
And the staff would agree with that. If you go to larger jurisdictions, generally the city attorney, city manager's office, and the public, you got the Greensboro High Point where they meet every week. They're 48 times in 52 weeks. The manager and the city attorney and the PIO team wind up just preparing and managing meetings.
Well, they have to have so much time for fussing.
Yeah, you do a lot of that up there.
I hate to be seen thing out, son.
So, I'll just remind the council that the process would be, if the council wants to set these dates and move it to 6 o'clock, we will put it on the consent agenda. Mr. Sugg will draft the ordinance, put it on the consent agenda, and then he will, as part of his annual audit report and all our people we borrow money from, he does tell them that we have complied with the general open meetings laws, and we have complied with the charter. The charter requires a monthly meeting, so this is the proper way to do it. And as I always say about Mr. Sugg, we're never going to be wrong on procedure. We may lose on the facts every now and then, but we're never going to lose on, never going to be Jeff's favorite word, never going to be hung on our own petard.
Consensus is 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Sounds good.
And most importantly, I'm not
Well, I
interested
see y'all
in
at
this.
7,
I want to do it once.
Has there been any discussion, we haven't had a problem recently?
Talk about 2 meetings.
No, about limiting the public
speaker's
comment.
time.
No, but let's have some.
No, let's don't.
I make a motion that we have that discussion.
You want that on the, is your motion to have that on, why don't we do this? Why don't we report in December what the county does and what Archdale and.
Well, I tell you what the county does, they do 3 minutes for 5 people.
Well, I don't-
5 people, period.
Well, I don't agree with the number of people per se, but
And 3 minutes ain't enough to get started. Now,
no, but it's enough to cover the subject matter.
in all these years, we've had one person that took 45 minutes. Most people take 5 minutes or 8 minutes, and they get to say what they want to say, they feel better, And I have said all along, I'm gonna let people speak.
Well, if all of them can speak it in 5 or 8 minutes, what's the problem with the limit?
But most of them do.
Well, we could move this to all of them do.
Now you're complicating things.
No, I'm not. I'm simplifying things. I know why the county does the 5 people thing, because they get so much repetition going on, but that's a complicated matter there. But, and most of that comes from,
And it's the
their
same-
land use cases.
Same people every time.
But I think it's a worthwhile discussion to have, because we're in the minority of not doing it.
We will check with our sister cities, Randleman and Archdale, and we will let the county, and then the council can discuss. We'll provide the information, then you can have it however you want to.
I will just add, do be mindful that if that approach, that is certainly a defensible approach, but the mayor will lose discretion about letting people go beyond what the limit is set, because what you run into is that if you set a limit, you've got to stick with it, because if it starts varying, the allegation arises that you're basing it on the content. That if you don't like what someone's saying, or you do like what someone's saying, it affects how long they have. That opens up to whether or not it's a content-based regulation, and the minute you get into that, you start having a constitutional issue. If you stick firm with a time limit, has
Isn't that
absolutely
the
no,
point of the time
you're
limit?
okay.
Isn't that the point of the time limit?
It's, in practice, in theory, it's perfect. The mayor, I'm not singling out Mayor Smith, but just the mayor as the presiding officer has to be prepared, though, that if you have someone who is a little long in the talking, to stop that and to move on. And so long as, and I only bring it up to say you just got to be willing, no matter how nice they may seem or how much you may like what they're saying, that has to be stopped if you impose that time limit. And that's just contrary to the normal practice here.
Well, with the county, I think it's embarrassing when somebody's just barely getting started and they say, "Oop, time's up, sit down." Now,
The county's practice is defensible. I'm not criticizing it, just saying it's a reality that will have to be dealt with. As our presiding officer, is the city comfortable with that? And the council comfortable with that?
So Charlie, it wasn't gonna be time limit, what you were asking about. What were you gonna
No,
ask?
I agree with you, David. Mayor, I think we want to give our citizens the opportunity to voice speak their voice. But I think we can do it, not limit the number, certainly, but we can limit, I think, the time to a reasonable amount, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, something like that. And, but not limit, I agree, limit like the county does, that's,
How many did we have tonight?
didn't have any tonight.
How many did we have last week?
I don't believe we had any last
We
month.
had last month, two women.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
one of them went on and on and on about illegals and sending everybody home.
Yeah.
Gonna cut her off?
Yes.
Well, that also went on because there's interaction back and forth between the council and the speaker. It wasn't just got up and
Well,
said something.
and that is one of the things that we've always tried to do is not
Engage.
interact.
Yeah.
Not respond, not interact, just hear what they've got to say. And sometimes that just doesn't work, and that night that Alan Maldonado was up here for 45 minutes, it wasn't gonna work because everything he said was wrong. And so, and I wasn't smart enough to keep my mouth shut that night.
I will make a pledge, if I know that there is a coming into it, I will be quiet.
A what?
If there's a time limit and I know it's gonna end, I can be quiet.
Will that apply
In other words, not take the bait.
zoning cases too?
No.
No.
It's just public comment period.
They can speak as long as they want, but zoning.
Just public comment.
Well, and I will tell you, not for the debate tonight, it's for when we get a recommendation and somebody ready to make a motion. But I will tell you, the hallmark of my 16 years as mayor is that I was gonna let people speak. Now, within reason, and 45 minutes that night was not within reason. Now, somebody that was watching that night actually suggested that we have 2 meetings a month, one for public comment with no response, and then a second meeting where we answer the public comments.
But now you're
That
presiding
ain't gonna
officer.
happen.
Cannot the presiding officer stop it at any time? Sure.
That's just what Jeff was
Of course,
saying.
that puts it on you, I know,
But that's just what Jeff was saying. If I say, okay, I don't wanna hear this woman talk about this, and I cut her off, but the next person talks about something for 2 or 3 minutes longer, and I didn't cut her off, that's where I'm asking for trouble.
that goes in with being mayor.
If
That's
you're
why
not gonna go
you're
by the
elected to
rule,
do,
then there
make
ain't no
decisions.
sense in making it, but if you're gonna make
if we have a
a rule,
rule,
you're gonna have to go by it.
Well, I'll tell you
You
what,
got more to say than 15 minutes.
a year from now,
Needs to be on the,
you can do whatever the hell you want.
We can have a very generous
Time
time limit.
generous time.
We're gonna hear a presentation.
Huh?
John said he's gonna bring us a presentation.
Well, that's fine, but a year from now, it won't matter to me because
You'll be watching it on YouTube, David.
and my 16 years, I've let people speak. And
You're
I'm-
now, it ain't gonna make no
and
difference
at
to
this
me.
point, I'm not ready to cut anybody off.
We'll bring that back and then we'll let the council go from there. You wanna go to, you want me to do that or you wanna do this for
Oh,
upcoming events? You want me to do?
Jeff, you got anything?
Well, I'll defer first, with your permission, Mr. Mayor, to Councilmember Trogdon, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, a couple of weeks ago, David and I were just in discussion, and it came up that, our tenant at McCurry Park has not signed the lease yet. And of course, they've been over there all summer.
And that's my fault.
No, it's not your, no, and we talked, and basically, they had some, issues with some of the things in the lease. And, in further discussion, we said, well, let's go back to them, just tell them to mark one up and see what the problem is. Well, they sent one back and we got it to Jeff right away, cause I wasn't professed to be a lawyer or, or anything like that, and I wasn't authorized to do anything. I mean, neither one of us were, so all that's leading into, I got it to Jeff and I was gonna ask him, had he had a chance to look at it at all and, get his take on it, so cause I don't know, I was not aware of it, and maybe some other folks were, but that's it's, and I will say this, this doesn't mean I'm reconsidering my position, I just was the errand boy on this, so, Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, with your permission, I'll just elaborate. The city clerk has distributed copies of what I received from Councilmember Trogdon. I have had no interaction with the tenant. And I have read the notes that you can see on the side. I regret they're not easier to decipher. The copier had trouble with the way they were printed, but I wanted to see them since they've been handed to me. I always like getting to what I'm going to ask, and then I'll explain. What I'm going to ask is it the consensus of the council that you want me to look at this and go back into it and try to refine it, addressing the specific points? Now, the reason I'm asking that is this. There are all sorts of discussions that can happen through legal counsel for the city in most postures. This one is different. There was a properly advertised meeting. The city council adopted approval of a lease agreement. So you've spoken. I have room to maneuver until the council has spoken. Once you had spoken on that, that's the lease agreement. And it's an issue that does need to be resolved because, as the council member correctly stated, it's not been, the lease agreement that you approved has not been signed. That needs to be resolved because Mr. Sermon is here And he has to have a basis for why he's allowing any party, any entity, to use a city facility. Most times, that will come through the policy manual that you approve by ordinance for the Cultural and Rec Services. For the sort of situation at McCreary Park, the schedule of fees would not be economically viable if you're going to have extended number of events going on over a long duration. But so therefore, the policy manual that you've adopted and the article pertaining to McCreary Park provides that its provisions will give way and the controlling provisions will be what's in an executed lease. Since there is no executed lease at this point, it needs to be resolved. Is there going to be one? I am happy to address the provisions that have been written out, and I will just say for clarification, if there is a scrivener's error or a clerical error, it's fine for me to fix that without coming back to the council. For example, I put the wrong description for the real property in there. It's a typo. That I can fix because that's not changing a material term and condition. But as you can see from the notes, one of the conditions that has been requested to be changed is to make the grant of rights, whether it's a right of first offer or first option, I should say, and right of first refusal, to make it one or the other. That topic was discussed when the council approved the existing lease agreement. It would be a material change for me to open that back up after the highest authority for my client, the city of Asheboro, in this case, the highest authority is the city council, you've spoken. So that brings me to this point. If you want me to address these and bring it back to you with efforts to clarify and deal with those material terms, if you authorize me to do so, I will do so. And I just ask for your guidance.
Whose handwriting is this?
Ronnie's.
Okay, so I just wonder who's, so.
My impression is it's coming from the manager for the zoo.
It's
so this-
Ronnie.
Okay, so that's
If you see red,
leasee has marked up the lease that was drafted
Correct.
by the leasehold.
correct.
Is that,
In
That
my
is-
conversation with Joey, he said, just take the original copy to Ronnie and let him mark it up like he thinks it ought to be. And that's what he gave me back. I gave it to Joey. Joey gave it to Jeff.
There are a couple of stray marks in there that are red, that's just me making notes.
I mean, the copy slide is hard to,
Correct.
and my eyes are so dark.
Oh, you mean,
And your original may be easier to read. Is that correct?
yeah.
It's slightly better. I can decipher it. I can make it out, yes.
I guess the question is short of us going through here,
only
I mean, that
three
line item in this thing, what are you asking of us?
I'm asking for your permission for me to reopen drafting on that. It's inappropriate for me, if you've spoken and given your final word, which is what has happened, and the lease is out there, it's inappropriate for me to go out and start trying to renegotiate it unless the city council tells me you want me to do that. And I'm not gonna reach out to them. What I will do is I will look at these notes. I will make changes that I think are responsive to the notes and bring them back to you. And then at that point, if you approve them, I'd ask you to make a motion to advertise it says you've got to advertise the intent. If it's a substantive change, which it would be to comply with some of the requests, it'll have to be advertised again and come back up for final determination by the city council.
Do you have that version of Word that lawyers use, red line, blue line, that shows what you've done?
Yes.
Where the new thing is?
That's what you would get from me at the December meeting if that's what you want me to do.
That's the format I'm familiar with to compare these two things,
Yes.
more than I want to be.
It'd be strike through.
Rather than us going through it line by line
Yes.
and discussing it here, I would propose that we authorize Jeff
There's only
to
three
make,
notes on there.
make potential changes for us to review.
Get this thing red line, blue line with these two things on here where we can read it, and that'd be great, cause I don't,
Need a formal
I'm not
motion for
necessarily
that.
seeing fundamental terrible stuff, but I'm hard to compare.
Mayor, I move we allow the city attorney to review the proposed changes on behalf of the lessee and to make proposed changes to the lease agreement for review by council at the December.
At the December regular meeting.
in a comparative format.
Yes.
We got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second on that.
Where? Second, Mr. Burks. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. All right, now, upcoming events. Thai Brew is doing this Mighty Comedy Night at the Sunset Theater on November 8th at 6 p.m. That's Friday, that's tomorrow night. Saturday the 9th is Elvis Christmas Show at the theater, 7 o'clock.
Be back in the building.
Saturday and Monday, Field of Honor at the middle school baseball field. And that is an impressive thing. If you've never been out there, it's worth the trip, and at night is particularly moving. And let me say this about, it is a way to honor special people in your circle of friends. They do not have to be veterans. That, you know, if you've got a personal hero or somebody that means a lot to your family, and it is a fundraiser for the Chamber and the Rotary Club. They split the profits half and half. Been doing it 5 or 6 years now.
9. 9.
9 years.
This is the 9th year.
Whoa, time me to retire. Yeah. And you get to keep the flag and take it home with you if you don't already have a half a dozen. All right, that's, opening ceremony is Saturday, and the closing ceremony is Sunday. Monday. And then Monday, afternoon at 4 o'clock is the Veterans Day Parade, and that is actually, in the past few years, been quite a parade.
Good parade.
And then the 15th is Tim Moon Part 2 Talent Showcase, Sunset Theater. 18th, Monday the 18th.
Watch your email, Mayor. Mayor, we would ask that, city attorney and I would ask that we'll reach out to you Monday to sign the special meeting notice with the times and all. And we'll get it right out to the council and get it posted on the web. November 20th, as we mentioned, Mayor, earlier, was the parking study open house. The Asheboro Housing Christmas Party. It's always a good time. You won't go away hungry. It's December the 4th. Please get that on your calendar. And to visit, has everybody received their invitation in the mail? Y'all received yours? So I think there's an RSVP on there. Of course, the council meeting is the next day, Thursday, December 5, and then December 6 as the Christmas parade. So hard to believe it's all coming here, but it sure is.
And that's actually at 7.
Yeah,
Not 6.
we just realized that.
And the
We're
tree
doing a
lighting?
tree lighting.
Yeah, the tree
Alyssa,
lighting.
we're doing a tree lighting. At what time? 6 o'clock. Tree lighting at the traditional live tree at the railroad tracks beside the pig at 6 o'clock on the night of the parade.
No.
No, the November 30th.
I'm sorry.
They moved it. Said such a crowd.
Oh,
Six
okay, so
o'clock.
it's not, the tree lighting is not the day of the parade.
Small Business Saturday.
You expect anybody to show?
Yes.
You and me.
Well, the Asheboro High School Choral Ensemble is going to be there.
Singing to
Just saying.
themselves.
Jimmy and John Nance and Jamie got to get it all wired up.
Addie's going to be publicizing it through.
One of them's gonna be hiding behind the tree, turning the lights on. All right. Well, it's always been on the night of the parade, I.
We've changed it to
Oh my God, Friday the 13th.
All right. Well,
Mayor, we want to, on behalf of the staff, we want to wish everybody best wishes for happy Thanksgiving as we give, and we don't have any more from the staffs tonight. Just as we said, watch from Joanne, and Alyssa and Trevor for the special meeting.
We need to turn these back in.
You can keep that. And you can feel free to reach out to me if you have any specific concerns.
That's all we have, Mayor, whatever else the council has.
okay, well, let's start down here with Kelly.
Just very thankful for all of our city staff and particularly the presentation tonight with our police officers and fire and rescue department personnel. We're proud of y'all every day, but just that work is just incredible. So thank you very much for that. I also want to thank Debbie and Steve for the work that they're doing, the quarterly reports that they're sending us. That is incredibly helpful to have. I know that's extra work. Thank you. And then just want to say thanks again for the special workshop that we had regarding infrastructure for water and wastewater. It seems to me it's working well to do these workshops, to have separate meetings to talk about some of the issues that we need to discuss. But I know that's extra work, so thank you very much for that.
Charles.
Just that, again, complimenting and congratulating the fire and the police, fire and rescue and the police who took their time and effort to go to the western North Carolina, but also looked at the equipment they had up there. If it had not been for the command staff that we had to have the foresight to acquire those pieces of equipment, to go up there and help the citizens up there, it wouldn't have nearly the impact that they had. So I think when I look at that rolling stock that's up there, I'm glad that we were able to provide that for them.
A lot of those fire departments lost their rolling stock. Randolph Electric sent their line crews up there and they had to give up their trucks because there weren't any trucks for the people that worked up there. And so they ended up working as fill-ins in Rutherford County without their own equipment. So the devastation will be present for longer than I'm aware of. They're talking about River Arts District today and how they have no idea how they'll ever build that back.
It's right there on the water. It's right there on the river.
Yep. All right, Clark.
Well, I'm glad that we're participating in the Light It Green. Thanks to all the veterans for their service. And glad to hear that we were recognized in that regard with that reward. Want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving and happy birthday to Holly.
That's right.
And happy birthday to Kelly.
Thank you.
Because I read my newsletter.
That's right.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Which looks great, Alyssa.
Kelly has a birthday on the 27th.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
John?
Again, Mayor, on the Tuesday, the 12th, we'll have our veterans breakfast, and the veterans get a little gift, and makes me proud. Chuck had his Army bag, and one of a city manager at somewhere said, code enforcement said, where'd you get that? He said, the city gave me that. I said, well, we don't get anything. I'm a veteran, and we don't get anything. Chuck says, you don't work for the city of Asheboro.
Have you named Eddie new fire chief?
Yes.
Okay. Congratulations to Eddie Cochran on being named new fire chief.
And watch for your invitation on that.
It was fortunate that we were able to hire Chief Summers when we did, and he's done a lot for us and responsible for a lot of great things down there, and Eddie will do a good job. Eddie's been there a long time.
About just shy of 30 years.
Just in time to retire.
Yeah.
Well, we remember when Captain Jones was just Patrolman Jones.
I did my ride-along at Leadership Randolph with Captain Jones many years ago.
Very proud of the services we were able to provide in the mountains, and there's lots of progress going on reestablishing the roadways. The state has let contracts for Ames Construction. It's over at Toyota for a construction management project, same type contract used over there to reestablish 40. The Jones Brothers is doing the two-lane traffic, one each way. They'll have that up in January if they can get the tunnel section done. They don't want them meeting traffic in the tunnel. That'd be bad if anything went wrong. And either they built the Asheboro bypass, did a good job there. So they've also let construction management projects for all 100 bridges that are out up there. So they have high faith that the FEMA money will be coming, because this is extreme expenditure. But anyway, say all that to say, I touched on it earlier with our RCC presentation we had tonight at the southeastern U.S., the 7 southeastern states. We went from lower middle pack to star of the show in one fell swoop in our relationship with Japan. There's great presentations by many things there, and everybody there knows where Randolph County is in North Carolina now. So that was a proud moment to see those things, but we've done a lot right, and kudos to all those that put in all the time and effort to bring those things about and make it happen. And the community college system in North Carolina, and RCC in specific, were extremely instrumental in that. They put great store in that. So I just wanted you to know that it was we were represented well and proudly. So thank you everybody for all they've done with that.
And the strength of the RCC is our citizens who take advantage of that skill set, that intelligence they get, the learning they get. No matter what the slings and arrows of the economy do, they can't take that away from you. And it wasn't that long ago that Scott Pelley was in here.
And there will be more
60
to
minutes.
come.
There will be, yeah.
They, I was just, in addition to that, the healthcare system being this close to Research Triangle Park and leading medical centers, and our corporate tax rate getting lowered, that was key. That was the last linchpin to a lot of it. But it was, we're the leader now, and I'll share this little tidbit of factoid with you, and I'll be quiet. But the gold standard is to get a car plant. Everybody hears that. Average car plant is between 1.2 and 1.5 billion. We got right at 8 car plants. It's
13 billion.
Top of the heap.
So I think the county was 13 billion. So when built out, that doubled the total amount for the county.
13.9.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Go ahead, Mr.
Talking with one of our, we're on veterans tonight, and talking to one of our Randolph County Honor Guard guys the other day, and thanking him for his service. And I don't have many regrets in my life, but one that I always have had is that I never served. And I was expressing that to him, and while he said he didn't have a choice, but he still never regretted serving. And that made him who he is today. He's a good man. And so thank you, veterans out there, John, anybody else who's watching. Appreciate everything you've done. Thank you.
It was good to hear from the public safety people about Western North Carolina sitting at home, or not looking at TV. You just, you know, what you felt kind of guilty you wasn't doing something. I sent a little money in, but
I didn't have any expertise to go up there and do what they did, so appreciate that they, looked like they did Asheboro proud, and we appreciate them volunteering and going up there.
And I echo the same sentiments. I think you could see it with them talking. They're all back, they're here, but they had a life-changing experience up there. Something that will stay with them for a good while. And that in itself, it makes you even greater appreciate what they did.
There's been a lot in the media about PTSD.
Yeah.
With first responders that had to go into a neighborhood where the neighborhood was gone and people were buried in the debris.
Yeah, it's not something they were thrust into, and I admire them for stepping up and doing that. And, like I said, that's something that will be with them a long time.
Yep.
Well, when you're assigned to go find a 20-unit mobile home park and see if there's any survivors or what's left, and you can't find the road.
Can't even find
You
a
can't
mobile home.
find a mobile home, and you can find no people, right?
That's what they encountered, one of their first calls. Went to check on a 16 or 17 lot mobile home park that was completely gone and no evidence there was ever a mobile home there. And all the people, early on, all the people were unaccounted for. Now, I think most of those were with friends and neighbors or had evacuated or whatever, so I don't know what that ended up being, but can you imagine sifting through some of that rubble? People lost their whole families. So we're fortunate here, and fortunate that we had trained people willing to go and a management team that would allow them to go. So, good night, everybody.
All right.
We're adjourned. And make note that it is 9:40.
You got a big birthday plan?
Hey,
Last week it'd been 10:40.
you just gonna be
Just,
19,
beforehand
aren't you?
Thanksgiving, that's sort of the celebration.
Hey,
It's very nice.